All right, I want to welcome everyone that's tuned in so far. Welcome to the Career Advice for the Quarantined webinar, presented to you by Sephardic Bikochalim, SBH, as you know. We've gotten a lot of great questions over the past few months, over the past few weeks, over the past few days that we're hoping to answer today. People have been looking for advice, they've been looking for tips, they're curious what they should be busy with. Businesses some are struggling, some are hiring. They're not sure what to do next. They're not sure about their unemployment. They're not sure about their loans. Been a lot of great questions from my own friends, from my own family, and as well within the Bikochalim network of the entire community. Bikochalim wants you to know that you're not alone. We have a great group of experts and great panelists today to help answer some of your questions. So hopefully you'll leave today feeling inspired. You'll leave today feeling like you've learned something creative, something different, a different way to look at your own business, a different way to look at the time that you have on your hands right now, being home, being with your family. So hopefully we'll have a great session today. If you're watching us on YouTube, which I think you are, there's a spot on the side of the screen to put your questions. So feel free to enter any questions there. We did receive a bunch of questions over the past few days that we'll be getting into. So let's get started. We have a great set of panelists today, all related to Bikochalim in some way. So I'm going to introduce them. And we'll start with that. We have Jack Anthony, who is an owner at HER Accessories, which is a wholesale accessories company. He's been working there for 20 years, and he volunteers at SBH in the career division, specifically matching people up with captains and coaches to help them, guide them in their careers. It's been a phenomenal department, so definitely reach out if you need to be matched up with a coach. We have Michael Beta, who's been an integral part of Bikochalim as well. He runs Benchmark Properties, which is a commercial real estate company focused in New York office transactions specifically. He's a board member of SBH. He's a career division lay leadership. He's done phenomenal work and is a great insight into a lot of the questions we have today. We have Vicky. I don't want to butcher her last name, so we're just going to call her Vicky. She currently is the incoming director of annual giving at the Yeshiva of Flatbush. She previously oversaw the Young Professionals program at SBH for 4 years, focusing on mentoring, internships, and job placement for college students and recent grads. And that's been a lot of the questions we've received recently. I'm graduating right now and they feel like there's no job market. So we'll start to jump into that later today. And last but not least, of course, is Sierra Ovadia. She has a deep background in business and marketing, and now she serves at SBH as an unemployment specialist and job developer. So welcome everyone to the team. Welcome everyone to this group. See, a lot of you are muted. It's a chat. It's not just me speaking here. So feel free to unmute when we get to you. Thank you. I appreciate that I'm not alone. I want to welcome everyone that's probably tuned in by now. We're 4 minutes in. So let's make it a successful hour and make sure that we're answering a bunch of the questions. So I'm going to jump right into some of the questions that we've gotten in the past few days. So a question that we saw come in multiple times, I think maybe Michael, Jack, anybody can answer really, is that people have been sent home on unemployment and they're making more on unemployment than they were in their job or the same amount. And they really see no reason to come back to work. So we're having some bosses call them back to work and they don't want to come back to work. So Michael, you have any guidance for how to make sure your employees are coming back?
Yeah, so first I want to welcome everybody. It's certainly been a difficult and disruptive time for a lot of families, a lot of businesses. And as Marshall said, I just want to, echo his sentiments that, a feeling of encouragement should be taken away from today. And we are going to get through this and, people should be hopeful. As it relates to the specific question, I think there are obviously two ways to look at this, one from the employee's side and then one from the employer's side. I'll address the employee's side first. I think that, I saw a statistic published last week with the unemployment numbers that although we were at 20-something million unemployed in the country, over 75% believed it to be a temporary furlough or job that would recover. Obviously, time will tell how that plays out, but certainly the unemployment numbers may not be sort of true to what is really happening in the long run, as COVID-19 evolves. If I'm an employee, and I'm collecting unemployment and I am making more through unemployment, I mean, it's a personal decision, obviously, but I, for one, would advise a family member that now is a critical time to show what you're made of to your business, to your profession, to your company. And so long as you're not in a vulnerable health situation, you should really do what you can to return to work in a manner that's safe for you and talk it out with your employer. And I think the same thing holds, even if you are maybe making a little bit less, having a job over the long term is much more valuable than the unemployment, which is sort of temporary. As it relates to the employer, I think the employer needs to look at things in a reasonable way, not so much necessarily from a legal standpoint, but there are going to be people that maybe for mental health reasons or due to people being at home, kids at home, or caring for a loved one may not be able to return to work so easily. Depends obviously on the position and the profession, whether it could be work from home or they need to be in person. But I would maybe give a little more latitude now, but recognize that, especially for valued employees, try to bring them back and have a conversation, talk it out with them, and see what has to make sense for any particular business. That's
basically, in short, you're saying the employer, be a little understanding that some people are feeling anxious right now. They might not be ready to jump on the subway if that's what you're asking from them June 1st when we open up. But if you're an employee that has been furloughed, recognize that it's better to have a long-term job than to get this unemployment benefit, which, Sierra, can you chime in? I believe that the unemployment benefits expire soon.
So the 39 weeks of pandemic unemployment and regular unemployment, they'll last for 39 weeks, as I said, but the additional $600, which is really keeping people wanting to stay unemployed, that's going to expire on July 31st. So come July, you might have a whole rush of people looking to fill all of these open jobs, and you could lose that opportunity that was waiting for you just 2 months earlier.
Now, you mentioned open jobs. Have any of you heard of open jobs in the market? Are you feeling some spots of inspiration?
Definitely. We're getting tons of jobs in at the Career Center. I mean, every single day I'm seeing dozens posted to our site. So I definitely encourage anyone who's ready to start looking for a job. We even have work from home jobs. We have part-time jobs. And if you do collect part-time, you can still get your benefits. They're just reduced.
So that's a great question that you touched on. So can I still get my benefits if I'm working 3 days a week if someone needs a part-time worker?
Yes, so 3 days is actually the limit. If you work 3 days or more, you cannot collect for that week. You don't lose the benefit. You can pick them back up once you do reduce your workload, if that is what happens. But if you work 3 days or less, then you can claim partial unemployment. For example, if someone's benefit amount is $200 and they're working 1 day a week, for every day that they're working, their benefit amount is just reduced by 1/4. So then they would get basically $150 plus the additional $600.
So we're getting a few questions on the YouTube chat about that. So it sounds like you will get a reduction based on how many days you're working.
Exactly.
Sarah A mentions, she quotes me that I said New York City is opening 6/1. It's not officially opening 6/1. I'm just using the data as an example. It could be 6/10. It could be, I'm hoping for 6/1. We don't really know. Let's just have a little bit of hope and a prayer. Vicky, we're getting a couple questions here, and it's a twofold question. Someone just graduated. My niece just graduated college yesterday. I'm so proud. She graduated on Zoom. Where is she applying? Where is she looking for? Who's looking for a job for college grads that had all their hopes built up? Any advice?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, obviously, it's a very humbling time right now to be graduating. It feels like it's an unfair job market. It's already difficult to be a recent grad and have no experience in the first place. So, take it one day at a time. If you, I think it goes without saying that, to have very realistic expectations and set a standard of living for yourself that's realistic. Try and minimize your expenses and bunk up, and living at home is okay. If you didn't get your dream job, that's okay, as long as there's something that you can take out of it that's value. And start to consider things that may be something you may not have considered before, like freelancing or temping, or taking project-based work that is short term. On a personal note, I always like to share this story. When it's a down economy in 2008, 2009, I was actually working in a position And there were 2 rounds of layoffs. And in the second round of layoffs, I was laid off, and I had, it was very surreal because I had just gotten engaged the day before. So I had gone from such a high to such a low, and it was really very confusing. So at that point, I had a very good relationship with my employer, and they had recommended that I do some temp work for a competitor agency. And the work that they were offering was very basic administrative work because they had also had their round of layoffs, but they laid off too many and they were backed up with work. So I said, you know what, why not? Let me just give it a go. It's extra income. I'll take it 4 days a week. And then I made some time for myself on the 5th day to job search and plan my wedding. About 7 months in, they realized that I was very capable and able to do the job, and even more so. They offered me a full-time position and a promotion, which was more than what I was making, and a better, a more senior role. And I ended up staying at that company for 7 years and really growing myself. So the point is that, you know, if you see a company that looks great and you're interested in it, but it may not be exactly a position that you think is really your dream job. It could be very administrative heavy. It's still a foot in the door. And this is what I want people to understand, that it may not be exactly what you're looking for, but you have to have realistic expectations and be open-minded to look for these type of things.
So bottom line is get your foot in the door at a company. And to something you didn't mention, as an employer, Jack and I are employers, we might have received PPP. We are required to spend the PPP on salaries and rent. So that means I have to look at last year's salary for this same time frame and try to spend that exact amount. Now, if I already furloughed people, I might be saying, whoa, let me bring some people back to make sure I'm spending that amount. So it might not be your dream job that you just graduated college for, but if I bring you in as make-believe secretary, and after 2 weeks ago, wow, this person is amazingly talented and would be really great in a different department, at least you got your foot in the door because I had some PPP money to spend.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And I think that, you know, at this point in your career, you know, the next 5 years are crucial. This is the time to experiment. It's okay to not know exactly what you want to do, but because you may not have the baggage that someone who is older may have, it's really key to go out there now and figure out what you really want to do.
Jack?
Yeah, I was going to touch on what Sierra said and what you just mentioned, Marshall. With the PPP, you know, a lot of companies initially fired a lot of their employees, and then once the PPP kicked in, that's a lot of that forgivable money. So not only, you know, people are hiring their old employees back, but people are also hiring new employees, right? So there are opportunities out there if you're someone who's been laid off, but you think you have something to offer, whether it's, you know, someone that was within your industry, or you know, reach out to those employers. There's a good chance that they do have that extra money, especially in the short term. They're aiming to hire even new employees.
Right. So a couple of questions that are coming in. One of them seems to be repeated a few times is, so I think people are getting the vibe that there is some hiring happening. Not everyone, but there's a little bit of hiring. Some people are trying to fill in. Some people are trying to pivot, realizing that their company has pivoted. We're getting a lot of requests at B'Korchalim for expertise in e-commerce. Anyone that has an e-commerce background seems to be being hired very quickly lately. So people are being hired.
We also have those online classes, by the way. For
online classes are what, every Tuesday and Thursday?
Yeah, and they actually just added another set because the response was really overwhelming. I believe the other class is Monday and Thursday. I have to double check, but we could send out the info after if anyone wants to give their email, and
that'd be great.
I'd be happy to send it out.
Michael, I'm going to put this to you. There's a lot of people with many years experience. They've worked 20 years at something, and now they're trying to re-enter the job market. Maybe they're competing with a kid just out of college who seems like, oh, let's throw them in, they're inexpensive. But there's someone with 20 years of expertise. How do you position these two different people to going back into the job market?
Yes, so I mean, I think first of all, somebody, you know, we always look at different people with different financial obligations and flexibility. So, you know, Vicky touched upon the younger demographic, which obviously has more flexibility, less financial, you know, obligations to others. So for them, exploring and being able to be more flexible, maybe taking a few months to really learn a new skill learn how to be a programmer, learn how to be something that is a skill that's a little bit more required in today's job market. I think that demographic could really benefit from taking the time, educating themselves. And there's so many online courses today. We have an Excel a vocational school that we have a partnership with that offers free Excel classes online. We'd be happy to make any referrals for anybody that needs that. For the population that's a little bit more experienced, I like to say, or advanced in their careers, been doing something for 20, 25 years, I think it's case specific. I think it depends on what you were doing prior to COVID and what has been the reason for your termination or furlough. I mean, I think if you were a successful business person in the last year or two, or successful professional in any business, you really, I don't think you should really think of abandoning what you're doing. I think that there'll be opportunities either within your existing business or to partner with another business, or to find something that's tangential, one step removed from your existing business. So, for instance, if you never thought you could potentially secure a brand of that would differentiate your business, now is a very good time to be talking to those licensors and say, what do you have coming available? Because maybe somebody was a weak licensee, that maybe would be a new opportunity. Think about, in terms of e-commerce, there are certain retailers that really suffered during this crisis. I'm talking about the national retailers that didn't have a strong online presence. How can you brush up on some of the ways in which e-commerce companies could play a role and become more familiar, whether it's Amazon or Shopify? So it really, even if you are more experienced, I would say resort to your relationships, to the people that are in your network. You've built up a ton of relationships over 20, 25 years, but maybe add a dimension of technology, of something that could bring a different element to your skill set that will make you more attractive in the job market.
So basically relationships. I mean, that's the key to anyone that's had experience for the past 20 years and anyone that's had experience for the past year. You've built up a certain amount of relationships. If it's your buyers or if it's whatever business you're in, your clients, buyers or clients, I would say covers most. You need to be keeping in touch with these people because they might have the next opportunity for you. I mean, Jack, what are you telling your salespeople that are sitting home right now? There might be, Target is open, but most accounts are closed. What are your salespeople been busy with?
So I mean, that's exactly what I've been telling them, is really maintaining relationships, kind of like twofold. So first, you want to maintain that personal relationship, kind of first understand that a lot of your buyers, right, they're out of work also, or they're sitting home. So get personal, speak about their days, call them, text them. Everyone has a different relationship with their buyers, a different comfort level, but try to make it, that, send them pictures of your kids if that's, appropriate, or, talk to them. You want to stay top of mind. So when we do reopen and you do come back, if they had 10 vendors and you're the one that, asked them how their day was going and got, personal, that you'll be top of mind, and hopefully that bumps you to, one of their preferred vendors. And from a business standpoint for the relationships, a lot of them are buying new categories, especially now that, there's a lot of people who are buying masks or buying sanitizers, things that they weren't necessarily buying. And a lot of the buyers themselves have shifted. So see where there's no opportunities. Like Michael said, with brands, there are a lot of buyers who are buying new categories that weren't doing it prior. And that might, put your foot in the door for a new category that you weren't previously doing.
Right. As much as it seems difficult during this time of economic uncertainty, if there was a brand available that was never available to you before, go after it. If you have retail stores, even though your stores are closed, and suddenly there's a building that is super duper cheap because the landlord is just desperate for someone to come in, it might be a good time to make a deal. If you're in the paper business, it might be a great time to get paper cheaper, although most paper has been used for toilet paper. So I don't know if that's the truth. But if you're in the trucking business, can you get a truck cheaper these days? There's a lot of things that are less expensive these days, and there are things like Purell that are more expensive these days.
I think that to sort of reiterate what Jack said, making relationships are the foundation of any successful individual in any business, any profession. Having great relationships, and those require a lot of watering the seeds, tending to the garden, making sure that you're cultivating those relationships. Don't disappear on the people that you ordinarily do business with. And however, and like Jack said, you can make it personal in a way that's empathetic and genuine. So I think that's really a critical part of this. Also, somebody mentioned before pivoting. I think that, we use that word often to talk about a business like Netflix evolving from the red discs and the envelopes into streaming, and how that's sort of like the iconic example of pivoting. I think it's important as anybody reassesses, and it's a very personal thing to decide if you should shift from what you were doing to what you think you need to be doing, rather than run into, say, masks, for instance. I think that the pivot, if you think about what you were doing at 12 o'clock on a clock, I don't think you should be going to 6 o'clock. I think you should be going to 1 or 2 o'clock. One step removed from what you were doing is probably a natural progression for your business. So, for me, I'm in real estate. I think that there might be opportunities. I'm not looking to sort of go into hand sanitizer, but I am thinking about how the distress in the marketplace might create opportunities, especially in the work from home environment where my business is leasing to companies that rent office spaces. I think there might be opportunities as the world turns sour on just working in the office, and there might be opportunities for me to look for investments or to buy distressed debt. So move just a little bit. Don't go all the way over at a 180-degree pivot. I think that's not usually.
Great point. Just a quick answer. We still have a few people make comments about the classes we mentioned. They are free. So the e-commerce class, that's twice a week with SBH. You just have to register. The Excel classes are free as well. Vicky, do you think we're going to be seeing internships this summer? Do you think people are going to be looking for interns this summer?
So a lot of the internships, have been canceled. About 35% were canceled, 25% were taken remote, and the remainder were uncompensated. My advice is whoever did receive an internship, pat on the back. You did your due diligence. You went out there, you networked, you did the super day and the career fairs. And there's definitely something to be said about the fact that you were chosen and you did receive something. So that shouldn't go, unnoticed. And I'm even seeing that some career experts are saying you should put your canceled internship on your resume. It just shows that you were chosen, exactly. So, and it could be used as leverage to secure your next position.
Now you said 35% were canceled?
Yeah.
So now my father would flip that and say 65% of people still have an internship. That's more than half. That's a large number. That's the majority share.
Yeah.
So,
and on the note of unpaid internships, we were talking about past experience. I actually got my first job doing a 3-month unpaid internship, and it turned into a marketing position. A lot of you probably know the person I worked for. She's Tanya Zuckerbrot. She has F Factor diet, so it was an amazing opportunity. I never really imagined it would turn into a 2-year career there, and I got to see a lot and learn a whole lot. So it's definitely something that should be of value to the intern to work for.
So both Sierra and Vicky started as free jobs. Is that what I'm understanding? You both started, you got your foot in the door somewhere, worked somewhere for free until they offered you positions.
Yeah, unpaid internships, shouldn't be overlooked, especially at this time. I think college students need to be mindful that it's very difficult for an employer to compensate at this time. Usually they're legally, there needs to be some form of compensation, whether it's college credit or payment, but this is unprecedented. And
so, this goes back to what Michael was saying before. If you're a college student or an internship grade, odds are, thank God, you're probably living at home and don't have many expenses. So you definitely should put that internship on your resume, whether you really had it or not. You definitely should send nice notes to the employer, because maybe he is pivoting his own job and is going to go, you know what, we need more hands on deck here. And this kid has been really nice, still emailing me every week. And if you've been employed for 20 years and suddenly we're let go, you have a beautiful resume that's going to be, full of networking opportunities.
Yeah.
So somebody's asking if there's a. Go ahead, Michael.
I want to add to that point. My own personal story is 20 years ago. I was a couple of years out of college and had a nice paying job in a big corporation that had a startup division. And, when the telecom and the .com bubble burst, I was let go. I lost my job. And it was a demoralizing experience. It wasn't comparable to what people are experiencing now, where it's COVID and it's more or less a very broad set of industries. But it was a real jolt to my confidence. And I was collecting unemployment probably for about 6 months. but it was an experience motivating myself to wake up each day, make a whiteboard in my room, my bedroom, of what companies I was going to reach out to. I used my university's online networking resources to send people messages. Today, the equivalent is LinkedIn, and it was life-changing for me. Actually, that summer, I used to have a basketball tournament. Anybody remembers basketball tournaments?
We still have them. They're still a thing.
I remember
They
those.
still play basketball.
They just don't invite me to play in them anymore. We had a basketball tournament, and it's to benefit a not-for-profit, a cancer research organization. And one of the players' dads was in the audience and heard me speak about this organization and saw what I organized. And because of that, he asked me to come and work for them, and that changed my career. So it was just a life-changing experience, for better and worse. And I think these are moments that will define you. If you sit on the beach, looking at your social media all day, or you're going to take the time to be productive, to reach out, show people you're proactive, that's going to define your next 20 years.
Yeah. And I think that it just, at this point, after everything, God willing, calms down, companies are going to look at, what did you do during this time? And that's what they're going to really base a lot of their decisions on. Like, how did you build upon yourself? So whether it be you networking and having a LinkedIn presence or a strong network, or just like Michael said, continuing education through sharpening your skills.
It's a great question, because someone's going to come to me with a gap on their resume for the rest of their lives. I mean, 20 years from now, I could be hiring someone, they have a 6-month gap. Corona, we got it. We lived through it. It was the thing we lived through, right? But I'm going to ask, what did you do during that time? Tell me how you pivoted. What books did you read? What did you brush up on? What were you keeping busy with? What were you watching online? What classes did you take? What courses did you take? Did you teach yourself something new? And your answer might be impressive enough. They go, wow, I'm really impressed that this person with 10 years of retail figured out how to pivot into e-commerce, whatever the story might be. We got a question, an SBH question. They want to know if there's a database for internships. How do we handle that internally?
Yes. So what we do is, usually every year we have an internship program. There's an application. We can follow up with the details that you fill out, and you'll come in and meet with a job developer. They'll help you with your resume. We'll help you with interview prep. We even offer a mentor for young adults who are interested in a certain career. We'll pair you with somebody who's in that career field. And then once you've gone through the prompts and are job ready, we'll connect you to our database of thousands of employers to secure an internship. And we've done tremendous numbers. Last year, we placed about 60 plus interns in internships. And we still have those relationships. I mean, it may be different this year, but people are always looking for additional help. And again, having realistic standards and maybe taking a position that might not be compensated right now is an option for you. But people will be open to having somebody who's very interested in what they do come on board to learn it.
So we got a question here about being furloughed. I'm just going to jump in and give some advice on that, as I've furloughed a few people and hope to bring them back shortly. If you've been furloughed, yes, it is okay to look for other work, or you should be, like we said, brushing up on new skills. But most importantly, make sure you're staying connected. Like Jack said, his salespeople are connecting to his buyers, but make sure you're connecting to your old boss, saying, hey, just checking in, hope your family's well, hope you're doing well, can't wait till the office reopens, because the person who's still in contact with their boss looking to come back, even though they're on unemployment, is the first person that's going to get the phone call back. So make sure you're not just networking with the people you did business with, but networking with your own company, from the boss down to production, sales, design, whatever's in your office. I think that's definitely very important. Let's jump to another conversation. Michael,
I want to just add to that,
go ahead.
Marshall, if I can, just to that comment. We talked about opportunities and exploring opportunities. I think that many business owners are so inundated right now with putting out fires that if I were furloughed, I would say, let me run a task force on creating and identifying opportunities, right? I mean, it's like a great time to show what you're made of. And so if you could go and tell your business owner, I know you're dealing with the factor, I know you're dealing with canceled orders, I know you're dealing with all this mess. Let me look around. I'm going to be reaching out to different places for opportunities. Maybe it's talent, maybe it's a brand, maybe it's a capital opportunity. There's a lot of different ways in which to plant seeds now that 30, 60 days from now, when that business owner is looking at his list of people to bring back, it's going to be a no-brainer for him to bring it back.
Right.
So
Also,
go ahead,
sorry.
Jack.
No.
I was going to say, even for myself, I mean, I've let everyone at SBH know since the job market changed a bit and I was responsible for finding people employment before, my position changed. So I've let everyone know that I'm willing to do anything that needs to be done within the organization. So maybe a person's position will change a little bit. The market has changed. The needs of a company will certainly change along with the market. And it's just really important for everyone to be flexible as an employee.
So we've spoken today a little bit about it being an employee, a little bit less about being an employer. I think we talked about pivoting. Let's just paint a wide brushstroke here. Some of the emails we got, not in the chat today, but in the days leading to the chat, about specific businesses. So we're not going to get into each business, but maybe you're in party rentals, maybe you're in invitations. Those seem to be, hospitality, things that are not doing well right now. Or you're in wholesale and many of your accounts are closed right now, or you sold shoes or you sold something else. What should you be doing right now? How do you think about a whole new business? Should you be thinking about a new business or waiting for businesses to open? Who wants to jump in a little bit on that?
I guess I will. Yeah. So, I mean, I think obviously, as I said, when I say disruptive, this has been disruptive for everybody. And I think that it's important to remind everybody, no matter where you are in life, if you're young, if you've got a family, if you're older, you're going to be all right. Things are going to be okay. And I think it's really, really important to have, big picture perspective and realize that things are going to come back. In fact, in speaking to friends and business colleagues, clients over the last few weeks, I've noticed a really very clear pattern of things loosening up in the last week or two as stores start to open, as people learn more about the public health crisis. So I think that it's dynamic. What we see today can't be looked at as static, as this is a fixed unemployment number. This is, I have no business. I will never have a business. It's very, very dynamic and fluid, and it will evolve over time. There will be a Christmas retail season. There may be two of them. Maybe we'll have one in July to move the amount of merchandise. But things are loosening up. I think that's important for people to appreciate, no matter what business you're in. To the questions that came up, from different fields, whether it's event space, which I think is a particularly hard-hit area because we realize we can't congregate as much, versus traditional wholesale businesses that are experiencing, sort of a freeze to their business because no orders are coming in, or retailers are looking for terms, what have you. Very different answers to each. So let me just address them in the two that came in. As for the wholesale companies, I think you need to sort of monitor those store openings. They're, as retailers sort of convert merchandise and inventory into cash, they're confident and they see, they're tracking these things and they're going to be pricing things to move. So you should just be in touch, as Jack said. You're going to start to see as things, hopefully, God willing, we're able to open in a safe way and people are spending their unemployment money. So things are going to move and hopefully orders will start coming in soon. I think that will, and you need to make an assessment. What was your position before this began? Did you have strong brands? Did you have strong retail distribution? Do you have strong talent? Those are things that you really need to assess and make your own decision. If they were weak beforehand, then yeah, I might be looking for new opportunities, either a capital partner or, as we talked about, different brands, maybe looking for talent. That's what makes your business tick. The event space, I think a little bit different, maybe more challenged, but I might get creative there as well. So if I was a party rental company, really at the end of the day, you're a moving company, right? You're moving bulk items. You have a truck that you could maybe do grocery delivery, short term. Maybe you need to look for one, and maybe you could get a real opportunity, a steal on capital that will pay you back in the long term. So depends on the circumstance. For the invitation person, maybe it's taking a course in graphic design, because that's something that's directly related to your business and might give you a real opportunity in the future. So really depends on the circumstance, I think. And obviously create a network of people that you trust to counsel, to get advice from. The people closest to you know you best, know your business best, and rely on their judgment long-term for decisions.
So meaning take a step back, look at your business BC, before Corona, and say, okay, before Corona, before COVID, was it a healthy company? Was this a business that was dwindling anyways? Was it slowing just because the world was becoming more digital and less physical? And then decide, how do you pivot your business currently? Maybe this wasn't just I'm blaming everything on COVID. I have to really take a look at my business prior to this moment.
Yeah, and I think also that we should remind everybody that Jack has particularly led an initiative in SBH from about a year ago to build up a team of volunteer career advisors on a one-on-one basis where you could really identify somebody in your trade or somebody that can understand your business. And we have those available at no charge. They're really smart people that are here that understand your family dynamic, your business. So at the end of the session, I think they're going to be posting our email addresses. You should reach out to us to be able to be paired up with somebody.
Jack, you want to talk more about the career coach program?
Yeah, just to quickly touch on it. Mark Hazen and I are running the career coach program with the SBH, and what it basically is anyone who really, like we say, we're talking about a lot of different topics, and it's very hard to touch on everything, specific to someone's career. So what we set up is a career coaching program where if someone's needs career advice or has been laid off and kind of needs a little extra TLC, we pair up a client with a coach who would be another volunteer and kind of pair them up together and try to help them navigate through whatever they're going through. And it's been very successful. We've placed a lot of people in high-paying jobs, and I will put out the information after how to get in touch with us. But it's been very successful, and I think anyone who needs some personal attention should reach out to us.
So I will say that I personally am a job coach. I've had two people that have been paired up over the past year, and I'm saying this because it's going to relate to some of the questions I'm seeing on the screen. I helped someone that was getting their first job. They just got out of college. This is 6 months ago. They had a few choices to make. They weren't sure exactly their path. We talked it through. We made some decisions, and they got a great job. So he was young. I also placed someone that was in their 50s with a lot of experience. So I don't want anyone to think that this is only geared towards the young or geared towards the 30s and 40s. We understand that everyone needs to work today, that people are working longer than ever, 50s, 60s, 70s, and that's great. And there's definitely job openings for all that, for every age group. Someone even answered a question in the chat saying, and it was a great point from Jolie, saying that she's in the senior living field and they hire a lot of older employees because the older employee can relate to the seniors that are in, let's say, a senior home. So that's a great point. But as a business person, I do hire some older people because they have amazing experiences. They have amazing relationships. They have amazing years of background. They have things that you can't just learn in college in a year. It takes 20, 30 years of doing a business to understand a marketplace. So I definitely think, and yes, Madeline, 60 is very much alive and well. And God bless, my father still works. He's in his 70s, and you should work to 120. I think there's no, if you want to retire and enjoy, great. If you can, if you need to work, we're definitely pro working, and we're definitely pro SBH helping you find that job, whether it's through the career coaching program or many of the other avenues that we have.
I want to also touch upon the question of the older demographic. It really applies to any demographic, but if you think about like a restaurant right now, right? The restaurant industry has been, it's well reported that they've been hit hard. It's going to be hard for them to come back quickly. If I were somebody that had an interest in that space, I might be looking around for opportunity. If you imagine somebody who poured $500,000 into building out a beautiful restaurant, has a reasonable lease, see if there's a way to capitalize on this. Again, it doesn't have to be, you're going to go be a vulture, but could you come in maybe with, putting together an investment group and identify opportunities? There are going to be opportunities. Again, I'm looking at it in my business, thinking about how I can position myself with the right pieces in place to capitalize on opportunities, because you will have the opportunity to do a life-changing experience for the better, for you to position yourself well for the next 20 years, as opposed to being on the defensive and saying, this is really, I've been a victim, as opposed to somebody who's an opportunist and says, where will there be opportunities? Is there a hotel that I can now buy in auction for an extremely favorable price? And can I get investors because I have friends or family members that are willing to put a deal together?
So if we had to brainstorm on this session, and I'm going to throw out a few ideas, if we had to brainstorm what are businesses that are maybe going to take off because of the recession. So I did a quick Google search of businesses that were invented during recession times. And the problem was it went back all the way to, the first recession in the 1900s and so on and so on. But amazing companies that I don't think we could relate to. But I looked at 2008 alone, what companies were invented during 2008, and the list was Uber, Venmo, WhatsApp, Instagram, Pinterest, Groupon, Slack, and Square. Okay, so now I'm not an app developer, so you can't give me this list and I'm gonna go, oh my God, I might develop the greatest new app right now. But it was people at that time maybe finding very qualified people that were willing to accept a little less to work on a great idea. The idea was born during a recession, saying, all right, when things go back to normal, what would be a better way to do transactions? What would be a better way to tell a story? What would be a better way to commute? And those brainstorms happened during the pandemic. So now we're sitting here as the Jewish Sephardic community in Brooklyn. There's things that we still need. There's still things that I want delivered to the home. What are those things? What are those things that I'm asking for more of right now that maybe someone needs help in? I had a shirt delivered to the house. I'm wearing the same shirt for 6 weeks, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I had a new shirt delivered to the house. I don't have any shirts here. I called the store. She was willing to deliver it. I mean, I don't know if she hired a new delivery person because she usually doesn't do deliveries, but she's had to pivot her career. So if you had to brainstorm based on these amazing Uber, Venmo examples, is there anything you're thinking that is born of Corona 2020?
So one, it's a job in particular. It's not, it's three different companies are taking this off. Contact tracing, it's kind of interesting. There's supposed to be about 60,000 jobs available within the US, and it's a work from home position.
What is contact tracing for those that don't know?
So contact tracing is basically, you're gonna be in touch with an individual who was sick with Corona, and then you basically track where they went, who they were in contact with, and then call that next person. So if person A was in contact with person B and C and D, then you call each person and see who they were in contact with, and you gather information. So this is an interesting job that's work from home. It's pretty lucrative for someone that wants to be employed. I know you're more speaking to an entrepreneurial opportunity, but for entrepreneurs, there's also amazing opportunities to get funding right now at either low interest, if you have to pay back a loan, or if you do have a pre-existing business, we touched upon the PPP loan from SBA. So those are also just definitely ways to get yourself in to make more money going forward.
I think a lot of what you're going to see is, like you said, Marshall, like the way that we consume and the way that Uber and Uber Eats, it's really about that on-demand model. And that's what people are looking for, like modernizing the buying process. So I think some areas where you'll see, more automated services like this is obviously healthcare. And, we'll see a boom there, not just for frontline workers, but home healthcare services, maybe even mental health resources. I think that'll be big after everything that everyone's going through. But it's more about automating it and for it to be more operational and having the right infrastructure and building upon that. So we're talking about how that would relate to technology is another already big area that's already with a lot of growth, but that'll continue when you look at artificial intelligence and cloud computing and robotics playing a role in this area as well. There's a lot of just uncertainty going out of this. And there was a lot of uncertainty going into it with, internationally with Brexit and, the tariff war. So I think that people will take like a very conservative approach when it comes to how they buy and how they consume, with a strong focus on national and helping to protect small businesses that way.
I mean, I can't wait to go out and eat dinner outside the house. I got to be honest, I'm fairly happy in the home. My wife's making me food and I can't complain. I'm not exercising like Michael. I'm definitely getting fatter by the day. So many people have been wearing sweatpants the past 2 months. I refuse. I'm wearing my jeans. This way they stretch with me, so they'll always fit. But I would definitely say if restaurants are not going to be allowed this summer, it might be amazing if I was able to call someone that set up a beautiful backyard picnic for me, meaning I have a table in my backyard. Who is catering that meal? Is it the usual restaurant that I used to call, or is it someone that's now working from their home and started a catering business because we're not eating out as much, so we have to kind of recreate those experiences. But definitely thinking out of the box.
I think well, first I want to say that I think that when you think about a change to your life and to your business and profession, how you're going to earn money, think about runway. I'd be reluctant. I mean, if it was a need-based situation, right? Like I really needed this job to pay my rent this month or put food in my, then it's a different circumstance than if I have a little bit of flexibility. But I'd be thinking long-term. What are industries or trades that I could get into that are going to outlast COVID? Because COVID's going to come, it's going to go into the history books, and we're going to look back on it and say, I lived through that. So for my industry, I think about real estate, and I see companies today. There was announced, one of the big players in my industry is a company called CoStar. It's a data subscription, a real estate data service that provides listings to, it's sort of like the Street Easy for commercial real estate professionals. So I saw an announcement today. They bought a company called 10X, which owns auction.com. And obviously the thinking behind their purchase is that there's going to be a lot of bank auctions, that loans are going to be sold. So they're looking to play in that sandbox. They're being smart by saying, there's going to be a lot of distressed note sales. We want to be in that space. We're a data company at the end of the day, real estate data company. So again, to my point about pivoting from 12 o'clock to 1 or 2 o'clock, they're supplementing an existing business that already was strong by layering in a different business. So if we think about it from a job standpoint or from an entrepreneurial standpoint, what is one step removed from my business? So, if I was a retail broker, or if I was a mortgage lender, a mortgage broker, what's one step removed? Can I now help those banks to be the broker to sell some of that debt? Can I help the retailer sublease space can I find something that's a tangent, one tangent from what I was doing? If you think about the evolution of our community over 100 and something years, as we came here, we went from being peddlers to merchants. And then we as we went from these storefronts selling door to door, we evolved into retail, and then to wholesale, and then in branding, and then in real estate. We're usually going from one step to the next as usually a vendor or a customer of a particular business. So you should think about that. And again, not try to, of course, there are going to be special people that could, learn a whole new business and go in a completely different direction. Those people, God bless them, but not everybody's going to be in that circumstance. I think more people will say, what is the next thing that I could move to that is related to my business?
So just as an example of a different, not a recession necessarily, but my grandfather had started the company that I'm at today, and they sold handkerchiefs for 30 years until tissues were invented. So a handkerchief business became nil. No one needs to reuse a handkerchief. They're just decorative today, but they used to be a necessity of life. So they pivoted at the time into other men's accessories that their buyer who bought handkerchiefs, who knew them historically, said, all right, we know you, we trust you, we're willing to buy socks or whatever they sold at the time. So it's definitely about pivoting, but within your field, or using your relationships to make that pivot. So that was a great topic. Sierra, we're getting some questions about, I guess we talked about it before, about the PPP. So the PPP was used to pay specifically, your employees and your rent and a few utilities. But now there's also these SBA loans. People are confused. Can you get both? Are you supposed to just get one?
So the PPP is an SBA loan, but there is another loan that if you don't get approved for the SBA PPP loan, it's the Hebrew Free Loan Society, but that would need to be paid back, and it's a very low interest rate. They're giving up to $50,000, and you need 2 guarantors for businesses. So there was 2 rounds of the PPP loan already. I don't know if it's exhausted on the second round. I know the first round, there were so many applicants that couldn't even get pushed through because they ran out of funding. And then those applicants that were waiting from the first round got pushed through the second round. So at this point, I don't think there's any funds left, but the Hebrew Free Loan Society is definitely a great option for a $50,000 loan that would need to be paid back.
Great, thank you. Jack, I know that you're in the accessories business. I don't know if there's a whole lot of e-commerce done there because the items are small. Are you seeing e-commerce growth the past 8 weeks? Is there something specific that you're trying to focus on to even pivot your existing business?
So it's not as much pivoting. I feel like it's more just, you have to obviously adapt with the times, but also be, flexibility is key, right? So where my merchandise in particular is lower retail. So it's been a challenge in the past. Having said that, even before Corona, it's important to have an online presence one way or another. So, we have to get creative. So if I have an item that normally retails for $5, it's, we found ways to bundle it. So, instead of one item, you're selling three, get the retail up and, to get more of an online presence. But yeah, we see that even like my business was primarily brick and mortar. We've seen our online sales grow like crazy during this time. So personally, I think that, I think that we all realize that, online is the future, big part of the future, and getting a presence on there one way or another is going to be very important.
Now, really combining some of the things that all of us have said today, you might have a very experienced salesperson, 20, 30 years of experience selling the off price for your company, whatever your company sold. And right now they're doing no business for the past 2-3 months and they could have been let go. We know off price is going to reopen. That's definitely one of the channels that we feel will be, successful again in the future. I might be looking to hire someone with all those experiences if I was really just an e-commerce person, if I was just a department store person. So it might be a way for me to look for someone to find ways to expand. We got a question about the contact tracing. We've seen 2 or 3 questions actually about it before. You mentioned that, Sierra, and after. How do they find these jobs, these 60,000 jobs? Where do they look for them?
If they give their email, I could send all the information. I put together a one sheet on it. There's 3 different companies that are hiring. Off the top of my head, I know one is called Contrace. I have to look into the other 2, but I'm happy to forward all the information. I know they range from hourly pay. You could work a minimum of 20 hours a week to full-time jobs. And it's just a 3-hour free training that you need to do. And it's pretty straightforward. So I'd be happy to send it over.
So a question we saw come in 2 days ago as well as just now is, if you're furloughed, does your company have to provide medical for you, or what kind of medical should you be getting in between?
So I actually spoke to someone regarding this. Basically, someone should look into government benefits if they qualify. It really depends on if their spouse is working and if they are earning over a certain amount. So they could possibly, if they have no income, be on Medicaid. If they have some income and qualify, they could be on the essential plan. These are more affordable or free options. And then COBRA is a little bit pricier. So these are 3 options. It's really case by case. If
Right.
someone's boss is really nice and they're willing to give them an extra month or so, but they're not required, no.
Somebody's asking specifically, if you're being put on furloughed, does your company can they put you on medical? Do they have to use your bank's sick days first? I think it's going to be job by job. I'm hoping employers are a little generous. I'm hoping some might keep you on medical if they're furloughing you and intend to bring you back. I'm hoping that they don't even look at your sick days because you're going to come back in a few months. So it really is case by case. There's no flat answer there. It's general. We'll try to take another question or 2. Someone's asking where our email addresses will be. I think we're flashing an email address on the screen towards the end of the session here, which ends in a few minutes. We'll put a few email addresses up for those that need to contact. Any last words from our panelists before I ask our last questions? Anything that's weighing on you? Jack, looks like you got
just
something.
one thing, if anyone needs to contact me while they are looking for work to collect pandemic unemployment assistance or unemployment, I'd be happy to walk you through. I know there were some challenges with the site. They're working on it every day. It's a work in progress. It's certainly not perfect yet, but that's part of my role at SBH. I do help walk people through the system of signing up and filing.
I just wanted to add, specifically for the younger generation, we didn't really talk much about social media. And I think that this is a really great platform for anybody that's looking to launch a business or has something going on and really to try their hand at it. And to work with people that are in the same space as them or a similar space. You can go live now on Instagram and really I'm seeing a lot of people doing it, and it's catching attention. Just going with another person who may have a following and adding to yours. It's really just a great thing to have in the interim. If your business is event-based, for example, and there's nothing happening, it just keeps what you're doing top of mind for when things do start to turn around. So definitely use that as a vehicle.
Jack, last words?
Yeah, I'm just saying in general, something that's helped me through this, we're all going through a lot. Just talk to people. I continuously talk to business contacts or even my friends, just to get different ideas and get the dialogue going. I find it very therapeutic, very helpful. And it's definitely a way to really, you don't want to get stuck. You don't want to get in a rut. You want to, stay positive, and just keep, don't get, don't try to get into a space where you feel like you can't move forward in a way. So just, really stay positive, talk to people, and we'll get through it.
Michael, any last words before I wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, a few things. Number one, we are blessed to be part of this community. The community is amazing. There's so much support. We are a community because of these tight networks of business, of social connections. And so you should not forget that. You're not alone. SBH is here. There are amazing other institutions that are here as your safety net, as your resource, that we can refer you to. We have such a great community that is here to help you in every single facet: financial, mental health, career. We can't forget that. And when you go to sleep at night and you're worried about where how you're gonna tackle the future, just know you're not alone. That's the most important thing to remind yourself. And then I also want to just say, like, try to keep things in perspective if you can. I know it's hard, but we live in the 21st century in the United States of America, in New York City, surrounding area, and we're blessed. We could be, we could have been born into a different century in a hostile environment, without science, without developed economies. Already we've seen that our government has been more agile in responding to this crisis with interventions and with economic stimulus and with Federal Reserve action because of lessons they learned in 2008 and 2009. And we will learn lessons from this crisis as well. So bear that in mind, that the future is bright, that you're not, we're not sort of victims or subjects here. And then maybe the last thing to say is, and it's sort of, something that I try to remind myself of in my moments of stress or anxiety, is that you are in control. Don't look at yourself as something floating in the wind, a leaf that just, you're subject to whatever's going on around us, a virus or pandemic or economic crisis. You control your future. You are, you make it happen. And if you apply yourself to care about what you do every single day, giving yourself structure, as Jack said, reaching out to your network, taking advantage of the resources that are available to you, then you will come out of this stronger, better than before. And it's due to the things that you do, not that the surrounding environment does to you. So I think that's maybe the most important thing that I will leave off with.
So I want to kind of wrap up what everyone just said and thank our panel, of course. But in short, stay positive is what we just said. Be creative. Think about other avenues. Think about things related to your job. Use your network, small, large, whatever your network is, of friends, business associates, relatives, whatever they are. Make sure you're keeping in touch with your network. Take control. Don't just wait. Don't just wait for things to be reopening. Think about what you're going to do when they reopen, or how you're going to pivot, or something you're going to do new today, how you're going to take control of this situation while you're remaining positive. Everyone will be okay. You will all be okay. If you're young, you have your whole career ahead of you. If you're more advanced in your career, you have a lifetime of relationships to lean on and to network with. If you have a family to support you, know that the family is SBH. We are here for you. We're here to help guide you. We're here to help answer your questions. Please reach out to SBH to make sure that you're catching those sessions on e-commerce or Excel if that's what interests you. Make sure you're reaching out to SBH if you have questions on the loans and the SBAs and the PPPs. Make sure you're reaching out to SBH if you're still looking for a job or a career mentor or any kind of guidance. They're here for you. They're here to answer your questions. So thank you to our panel of Sierra, Vicky, Jack, and Michael. I appreciated all your time today, and hopefully everyone got a lot out of this. I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you
Be
for having
safe, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marshall.
Here's the contact information if anyone wants to follow up. If anyone's looking to contact anyone, this will stay on the screen. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
I'd also like to point out one thing, that everything that Michael Beta said, I told him to say right before this conference. So you're welcome, Beta.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, you're welcome.